doing something for someone because it feels so good, because I have so much to give without needing a reciprocal response or validation or gratitude. Because remember, we cannot control other people. Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. The sun is just so brilliantly shining out there up here in Maine for me today. It is just spectacular. I just stood outside for a minute after working out this morning, even though it's very cold, just to absorb the sun and feel that beautiful vitamin D and glorious sun on my skin and on my face. So I hope wherever you are, you have a moment to put your face in the sun and to take a deep breath and to just be present in the moment for a moment. Such an important happiness practice, such an important part of being present to every day and living that mantra of today is going to be a great day. Whatever this day brings, whatever lessons, whatever new experiences, whatever emotions I may feel, let this be a great day. And today I actually wanted to share with you something that was inspired by a book I'm reading at the moment. It's very popular right now, The Good Life by Robert Waldinger and Mark Schultz. I'm sure you've all heard about this. I know NPR has touted it a little bit. I think they've been interviewing them on NPR. And I thought, well, come on, if there's a new book on happiness, I've got to be reading it. So it's really interesting because Waldinger and Schultz really took over this almost now 80 something odd year research project that started 80 something odd years ago about what is it that causes happiness, or what is it that allows us to lead a life of happiness. They've been following thousands of men and women in this, and mostly men, actually, interestingly, and there's a reason for that in the book, but following these men and then women for almost a century now. I mean, these men and women who originally started in the research project were born more than a century ago. So it's really interesting. And then, of course, their children, and now they're going to start with their grandchildren, but kind of learning what is it that makes a happy life? What is it that makes a good life? That's really what the title of the book, The Good Life. And in the book, one of the components that was coming up is this idea that there is both a neural and a practical link between generosity and happiness. So I want to talk about that today. What is it about generosity, and how does generosity not only allow us to feel better, but actually do better, get more, live a happier life? What is it about this idea of generosity? And I love thinking about generosity as influencing us both in a neurochemical sense, like actually making us feel better in the moment, but also impacting the reality of our lives, the actual external conditions of our lives to build a happier life. We always talk about how happiness doesn't live outside of you. Yes, I will say that all day and every day. Happiness definitely starts within. But once you start within, you need to cultivate a happy environment. There got to be some boundaries you start establishing, some habit patterns you start instilling, creating a space and an environment and a friend group and a relationship value system with the people you interact with every day. You got to set your surroundings up to fuel you, to support that inner happiness. Of course. And what we're looking at today is this idea of generosity. And I love the dichotomy here, because at first we think, when I want something, I go out and get it. And the idea behind using generosity is almost antithetical to that, because I'm telling you, giving more will allow you to get more. Not just in terms of getting more happiness, but getting more support, getting more financial abundance, getting more relationship support, relationships, quality, love, and connection with the people around you, all founded in this practice and this idea of generosity. It's been hugely powerful in my life, and it's something that I have been practicing without even recognizing that I was really doing it, just because it felt good. And the more I did it, the better it felt. And I realize now, looking back over my life, that it was actually a key component of the abundance that I am so grateful for in this moment in my life. It was actually a key component of how I built my business. It was actually a key component of how I cultivated phenomenal, loving, supportive, true, deep relationships in my life. And I want to unpack that with you a little bit here today. I love this quote from Kathy Burnham Martin. She says, "We live far happier lives when we are generous in as many ways as possible." And I also want to just add a caveat as we're speaking about generosity today, because I don't want to confuse generosity with toxic selflessness. And definitely I need to do an episode on toxic selflessness again, because generosity comes from a place of abundance. Toxic selflessness, giving, giving, giving when there's none of you to give, is not a generous act. It actually holds an energy of lack for sure, but almost neediness, almost like a dependency. And the way we can establish an understanding of how am I doing this? I think I'm being generous with my time, my money, my love, my physical material things. And am I being generous or am I being needy? You can feel the difference in that energetically. And when I say energetically, I mean, how does it feel in your body? Does it feel like I'm giving because I have to? Does it feel like I'm giving because I'm expecting something in return? Or does it feel like I'm giving out of a sense of abundance? Like I have so much to give, giving it from a place of love, deep love. I think the same is true at work, in medicine, and in dentistry. If we approach it from an energetic space of, I have so much wealth of information, so much wealth of education, so much wealth of practice knowledge, so much wealth of knowing how to help you, how to heal you, how to support you in your healing journey. I want to be generous with that, give it to as many people as possible. Or I have this information and now I need money to earn. And so I'm going to do this as a job so that I can earn money. I'm not saying that generosity doesn't bring wealth. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. Generosity can bring more wealth. So let's unpack this a little bit. So let's start with happiness. How does generosity boost happiness? Well, one thing I think we already touched on is this idea of abundance. We don't give away what we don't feel like we already have plenty of, right? If you think about the act of taking your clothes to Goodwill, we give those away because we got other clothes in the closet. That's easy. I give away things that I feel like I have so many here, guys. I have so much of this. Please take some. Thinking last night, my brother came over for dinner, and we actually had so much dinner. My incredible dad and mother-in-law had come over and watched my kids for a few days, and they made just so much food. We had such a ton of food. And I was saying to my brother, Bern, take this. Please take it. Take as much food as you want. Take it for the week. Take it for your lunches. You guys don't have to cook a couple nights. I was being generous with. Why? Because I had so much. That idea of generosity is, I have an abundance of something, so I'm going to give it to you. What if we started with generosity in order to instill abundance for us? What if we used generosity to instill the idea of abundance with us? I love that concept in terms of money. Now, once again, I am not advocating throwing money away or being irresponsible with your money, but is there a way for you to be generous with it and give that and feed that energetic resonance of abundance? Because that feels good within you. Years ago, I think I've told the story on the podcast before. I went with my daughter. It was during COVID when we were just beginning to get back out during the lockdown. And I remember we went to a drive-through for the first time, Dunkin' Donuts, in the middle of backcountry Maine. And I remember seeing these women working in Dunkin' Donuts. Now they'd come back to work. They were all wearing masks. And I was thinking how scary it would be for them. It was right in the early days when we really didn't know. And I thought, oh my gosh, here they are making our breakfast for us. And I was thinking, I'm going to pay it. I just wanted to be generous. I wanted to give. And I thought, I'm going to pay for the 2 cars behind me. And as I paid for the 2 cars behind me, I realized I'm paying for people who have money to buy Dunkin' Donuts. And I thought, what about these incredible women behind the counter? Can they afford their own Dunkin' Donuts? I don't know. But for a moment, it struck me that I could actually be even more generous with people who might need it even more by giving them a tip. And I looked in my bag and I had in my wallet $100 bill. I don't know if it was one of the kids had a birthday gift from a grandparent that they gave me the cash and I put the money in their bank account. I don't know why I had this $100 bill it's all I had. And I thought, wow, what a difference this $100 would make to these women behind the counter. And so I just left it and drove off. Let me tell you, it elated my day. It made the happiness within me. Now I had clarity that I didn't need that $100 to pay something. It wasn't assigned to a purpose. It didn't have a bill that I needed to pay with it, right? I was not being irresponsible with my own family's money, but the act of generosity towards someone, man, that felt so good. It felt so good. I went away with this huge smile on my face. And I think about, how that impacted not just my day, but I love to imagine how it impacted their day. And the abundance I felt, that moment where you can let go of maybe some guilt, if you harbor guilt, if your money story makes you feel guilty, as I know so many of us do. Either we've come from communities that really are struggling financially, or families that have had a money story of lack or fear or scarcity. And we sometimes bring those stories along with us, especially in medical and dental professions, where suddenly we actually have quite a bit of money. But we keep telling ourselves that I don't have any. I've got major student loan debt. And not true. We do have major student loan debt, but sometimes we lose sight of the abundance that we actually do have, and the promise and the ability to earn large sums of money. And just giving ourselves a moment to feel that abundance is enormously powerful in terms of our own happiness. We are so fortunate in this incredible profession, and to stop looking constantly at the negative aspects financially. The insurance companies are always out to get me. There's, stress to raise my rates, and I'm scared to raise my rates, and my student loan debts are so high, and I had to pay X amount of money for this practice. And we focus so much on the scarcity and the fear around money, we forget to give ourselves the benefit of the abundance we have. And can we use this idea of generosity to start instilling that in us? Because you're not going to give away something that you don't have a lot of. What if we could use it the other way around? Just an idea. Back again to my point, generosity establishes a sense of abundance. The same with love. Or if I gave my love a little bit more, opened my heart a little bit more instead of keeping it so caged, but giving a little bit more love. Or here's a big one, time, generosity of time. If I gave a little bit of time, now it doesn't even have to be to somebody else. It can be to myself, being generous with ourselves with time. Imagine that. I'm going to be generous with myself. I'm going to indulge in sitting in this bathtub a little longer because it fosters the sense of abundance. And isn't that always true? We always have enough time. We always do, but we tell ourselves we don't. What if we started being more generous with it? Hey guys, I'm interrupting your podcast episode to let you know about an incredible new program that I'm launching in January of 2023. It is specifically for practitioners in medicine and dentistry to help you rediscover happiness and inner fulfillment within your profession and your life. I remember what it was like for me when years ago I was so depressed and anxious and feeling like I had created and built a treadmill I just couldn't get off of, pushing through every day and wishing my life away. This program is the how of how to find happiness in your practice and in your life, because we know that when we feel good, that's when we can do good. Check out thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness, or click the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you there. It also sets us up for the receivership of gratitude. In other words, when we're generous to someone, it gives, often they'll say thank you. It gives us an opportunity to receive. And receiving feels very good. Now, don't get me wrong, receiving can feel really uncomfortable. And it might be something that you need to work on, as I definitely did. I mean, for me, it was very hard to receive a compliment, receive money, yes, receive love. It was definitely a wound I needed to address in my life, but generosity allows us an opportunity to work on that. Generosity also satisfies this human need for love and connection. You know, the 6 human needs, love and connection is a deep one. It's a human need that we all share. We need love and connection, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whether you're in a committed relationship or not, whether you're a business owner, whether you work in a solo situation all by yourself. We need love and connection. I mean, if COVID taught us anything, it taught us that, right? Generosity deepens relationships, even relationships that are not very long lasting. Like, let's look at that relationship I had with the woman behind the counter at Dunkin' Donuts. I might never see her again, but for a moment, I got a deeper relationship with her. Let's remember, not all relationships are meant for a lifetime, but why not deepen and foster closer connection, deeper love and connection in the relationships that are here in this moment? Once again, another happiness boost. Generosity also solidifies a connection with our core values. I'm not saying that everybody's core value is generosity, but it allows us to get closer to the things that matter most to us. So whether that for you is connecting with someone, contributing to someone, or maybe it's even a core value that is a deeper sense of contribution, wanting to leave the world a little bit better than how you found it. Contribution is a higher level human need in human needs psychology, and it is absolutely one that generosity fosters and generosity allows, and generosity actually amplifies. So when we do something generous, it actually allows us to gives us permission to value that core value, that core human need. Once again, amplifying happiness. So when I'm talking about strengthening or satisfying core human needs, I'm talking about actual dopamine being released. I'm talking about endorphins being released. Anytime we do something that's supporting ourselves in our needs, in our core human needs, we're actually seeing neurochemically dopamine and endorphins being released. And when we're doing it for someone else, oxytocin, because that's that social, feel good neurochemical. Well, generosity allows oxytocin release. Boom, just like that. So I'm not just talking about what you might get in return, which is a thank you or a beautiful smile or a deeper relationship, maybe a closer connection to someone who can support you. You know, maybe it's a networking thing, right? Where you would love the support of someone in your community or in your profession. But I'm talking about actual feel good chemicals happening in the moment. So generosity has this idea of I can feel good now in the act, and man, I might keep feeling good because that person might turn around and do something generous for me. It cultivates and strengthens these relational bonds that are at the core of our happiness. Truth. I mean, that's one of the things that was discovered in this Good Life research project at Harvard that Waldinger and Schultz are now heading, is actually what they found over 8 decades of research is what is the core of happiness at any socioeconomic level, at any racial background, any gender, is the relationships we have in our lives. Well, then generosity is the one thing that can help support and foster deeper connections in relationships. So, what does generosity look like? I think for me, a big component of generosity is not having an expectation of an outcome. I know I just said maybe down the line she'll do something for me and this relationship will be materially supportive as well. But when you are in the act of being generous, a key component of it is not expecting an outcome. Doing something for someone because it feels so good, because I have so much to give, without needing a reciprocal response or validation or gratitude. Because remember, we cannot control other people. So when we set it up as an expectation, we set ourselves up for feeling worse. That's the only reason. If your generous act is so that you can feel better, then gotta let go of the outcome. It might go nowhere. Did that woman behind the counter at Dunkin' Donuts have anything that she could give me after I left? I only gave her the tip after she delivered my delicious breakfast to me. So I wasn't expecting anything. I was never going to see her again. I wasn't going to go to that Dunkin' Donuts ever again. That felt phenomenal. So actually, I would maybe never see the fruits of that labor, but man, did it feel great. I mean, I'm still talking about it here today. I'm reliving this moment that happened maybe 2.5 years ago. It's making me happy in this moment. Talk about return on investment. Another thing that generosity looks like, and a type of generosity I love to practice, is the spontaneous generosity. Kind of when you're feeling in the mood and it feels, right now I'm going to give. I'm trying to think of another great example, but that Dunkin' Donuts example is a perfect one where I wasn't planning. I didn't go to Dunkin' Donuts with $100 to give it as a tip. That wasn't my intention. It was the spontaneous kind of, it came over me. Something came over me in the moment. And to recognize that moment when you feel great, when you feel abundant, when you feel wealthy in all the ways wealth can feel, wealthy of spirit, wealthy of health, wealthy of money, wealthy of love. When you're feeling it, taking action on it in the moment. It also sparks this power of levity and play, which is a huge part of happiness, right? When we can allow ourselves to be spontaneous and risky and daring and say, ooh, this is exciting. I don't usually do this. I don't usually throw $100 bills at people. But man, in this moment, it just came over me. I looked in her eyes and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder how it feels. It must feel hard when people are being generous in this exciting act of paying it forward, which for a while was so popular, paying for the person behind you in the Starbucks line. And I was wondering what that felt like when maybe you couldn't afford the Starbucks yourself. So it just kind of came over me and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it. That spontaneous generosity is an enormous infusion of happiness, almost a little high, that oxytocin, dopamine, endorphin release. Another component of generosity, how to do generosity right. I should write a book. How to do generosity right. That's funny. But another component I would say is giving it airtime. Giving yourself a moment to dwell on what just happened. Not for anyone else, but for you. Oh, that felt so good. I can't believe I just did that. Or here we are again, the example again I'm talking about on the podcast. I'm reliving that moment in the Dunkin' Donuts line, and it feels so good again. This idea of we spend so much time with focus and attention on the things that make us unhappy. And how about we start strengthening that muscle of the moments that felt so good? So I think generosity can do that because it feels good to be generous. It feels good to be so abundant with something that we can give it away. It feels good to do something nice for someone. It feels good to have love and connection with somebody, even momentarily. And it feels good when I say even momentarily, it feels good when we allow ourselves to extend that moment. So it didn't just happen and disappear. Let's draw it out. Let's remember that relationship. Let's perseverate on the things that feel good. It's not taking away another second of your day. In fact, it's adding to it. I think another component of generosity, at least for me, is making it singular to start. So in other words, not setting yourself up for this like overwhelm of every time I go to Dunkin' Donuts, I'm going to have to do this. Or, maybe it's in your business. I just launched this program with some incredible dentists and doctors who are in the program right now. And I thought, oh, how can I be super generous? These incredible men and women showing up every week for themselves so that they can feel more radical happiness, so that they can be better leaders, so they can be better doctors and dentists, they can be better parents. I'm so overwhelmed with the honor to support them in this journey. What generosity can I give them in this program? And of course, over delivering always is critical. And of course, that's what I do. And I love it. And it makes me feel better and better. Have another meditation, have another inspirational message, have another. And I made them these beautiful boxes with journals and pens and candles for, giving intention when they're doing their journal work. And oh, did that feel good? Did that feel good? So even in your business, generosity is so important. And it's felt. It's that feeling. You get a feeling. Have you ever been to a business where you thought, wow, this is generous? They're giving me. I was staying at a beautiful resort this last week, and man, were they generous. Generous with their time and attention. We got room service one evening, and the gentleman who brought our food in said, "Are you guys going to be eating now?" And my room and I said, "Yeah, we're going to eat in a few minutes." We were unpacking. And he said, "Well, please take a seat." We literally sat down. This guy who brought room service to us asked us to sit down while he was there. And then he put the napkins on our laps and poured the water in the glass for us. I mean, the generosity of his time. He wasn't on to the next room. It made such a big impression on me. Generosity of his attention. Generosity, I mean, he was being so intentional about giving us a good experience that he wasn't even willing for us to to mess it up. We were still busy unpacking our things, and he was giving us so much time. That's a felt sense of the people who are coming to you, of your patients, of your clients. They feel your generosity. That establishes deeper connection and deeper appreciation. The value of that meal, of that room service meal, skyrocketed for me. I don't, whatever I signed on that evening for that room service, for that salad with shrimp, was worth so much more than the money I paid. Absolutely, because I felt his generosity. It felt spectacular. I felt so abundant because of what was given to me, none of which was expected. And he didn't have anything in return. I wasn't leaving him a tip or anything. Not needing an outcome, not being attached to an outcome is also felt by the recipient of your generosity. When they can feel, oh, you're doing this for a reason, there's an expected shoe to drop on the other end of this, that's felt. So it's funny how we keep coming back to this idea of your energetic approach to generosity. Where is that coming from within you? And maybe taking a moment to ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm expecting something in return? And sometimes we do things because we expect something in return, right? I'm paying you for this. I'm expecting you to give me something, right? There's a contractual aspect to it. And so it's not that in every moment of our lives we incorporate generosity. It's just a matter of when you do, how it can boost your happiness. And then definitely, we get better at what we practice. We know that in our work. The longer you're in practice, the better and better and better you get at it. Especially when you're willing to grow and try new things and you're being reflective and you're being curious. Of course, there are things, it's not just time. And so maybe that component also is a part of generosity. The more you practice generosity, the better you get at it and the better it feels. The more it becomes a part of what you admire and love about yourself. We begin to love ourselves more. So doing it from a place of, man, I love myself so much that I want to feel really good. And maybe if you're not feeling the love for yourself, which if that's triggering you right now, I would also like to reflect that I felt that way for 44 years. 44 years of my life, I had a hard time loving myself. Actually, I probably loved myself when I was younger. I know I did. So let's make it 34 years. 34 years, I had a hard time loving myself. So if you said you've got to love yourself in order to be generous, I'd have been like, peace out. I can't even get there. But what if we use generosity as an opportunity to start loving yourself more? Using generosity to create abundance, using generosity to boost happiness. And then I wanted to leave us with this last quote because I think it's such an important part of our profession in medicine and dentistry. And I found this quote by Marty Rubin, and it says, "To be happy for the happiness of others, that is true generosity." Woo! So just in terms of the idea of happiness in and of itself, can I give my happiness in support of others with an idea of doing so in a generous act? Can I be so abundant in happiness myself that I can give happiness to others simply because they're doing great? In our profession, there's such a sense of competition and lack that there's not enough to go around, not enough patients. There's too many orthodontists in my town. There's too many, now general dentists are doing Invisalign. So let's get all that sense of lack. But what if we looked at that general dentist who was doing a phenomenal job with Invisalign and thought, wow, I'm really happy for her. She had a dream. She had a vision. She's making it work. I'm inspired by her. I can feel how happy she is seeing her dreams come true. I have so much happiness within myself that I have the happiness to give. And maybe if I don't feel like I'm enormously happy now, maybe by giving that generously, I can use it to my advantage in order to spark that feeling in myself. Amazing. I love generosity. I love generosity. I love generosity. I love being generous with my content on this podcast. I hope you feel that. I think the more we foster this idea of generosity, the more we see it in our lives. Every day I see generosity towards me and I am grateful. That idea of the more you practice it, the better you get at it is true in terms of identifying and recognizing it yourself. Look at me seeing the generosity in that gentleman who served my room service to me in the resort last week. I mean, I see it everywhere. And I love fostering more of it. I love fostering more of it. So I challenge you. What can you be generous with today? And it doesn't have to cost $1. It really doesn't. It can be generosity of your spirit. It can be generosity of your love, generosity of your attention and your time. And can it be from a space of enormous abundance and not a space of, I feel like I have to, or I feel like I should, or the sense of like, this is what I always do, so it's expected of me. But rather, when I feel so abundant that it's overflowing, let me give to others. Thank you for listening today. I hope this episode boosted you a little bit. I mean, I feel boosted just talking about it. So I hope that this episode, with the generosity of information in it and the abundance of opportunity to see things from a new perspective, gave you a little boost in your day, because man, today's going to be a good day. And remember, because you feel good, you're able to do good in this world. Bye-bye.